Hey everyone, what's going on? Greg here again from Team Boss. I want to talk about the early signals that you should be looking at to see if your changes to your Google My Business profile are working to flip the map to get more phone calls and leads for your business. So I use a tool called Local Falcon. I use this for all of my local SEO clients. I love it because when I run the heat map scans, it always has a trend report for me. So I can see the before and after. And as long as you keep the metrics the same, like the same radius and the same grid size, you'll get this view. You'll see who the top competitors are, and you'll see how your client or your own business is doing. So initially, when I ran the scan, we had a below a 2% share of local voice. We were barely on page one for the term car keys replacement. Then, as the month basically went by, now we actually had almost a 6% growth now for this keyword. It doesn't look that big in this view. So what I did here was I removed all the competitors, and that's that hockey stick effect. So usually what happens is that when you start making changes a few weeks ago for Google My Business, it's very rare to have an instantaneous uptick. What usually happens is that you make changes, your ARP, which stands for average rank position, will start to change before a share of local voice changes. So what I mean by that is if I go down here, these are all the heat map scans that I ran. So top left is the very first one. Now it might be hard to see in this video, so I encourage you to pause it or zoom in. But really in the top left, there's a lot of dots that are red, and they all look the same. But actually, they all have numbers on them. Some are 13, some are 20 plus, etc. So ARP stands for average rank position. It takes all the dots here and divides it by the number. And there's also ATRP, but I'm going to keep it just to ARP, average rank position. So hypothetically, if I flip a dot from 20 to 5, that doesn't help share of local voice because I'm not in the top three. But I already can see, though, that by making changes to the Google My Business account, I'm actually starting to improve my rank, and it should lead then to early winnable dots for me to flip to have a share of local voice increase. So when I look at this heat map here and I make some changes to their account and I keep running the scans, I see, especially in the top right, okay, I'm starting to flip some dots. They're all starting to get to position 7. Again, we're not on page 1 yet. Early signal, though, if I can get those dots to position 3 at a minimum, that's page 1. And then as you can see here in the bottom right, there are so many more dots that are yellow and green, but now some of them are actually green and darker green for that. So I feel actually pretty confident that the changes that I've made are going to continue to pay dividends for my client. Again, I feel pretty confident now that I'm seeing how the map is responding to the changes. Everything is going positively for that. That's really encouraging to see. It's very early because they're only at 6% share of local voice, but this is a great start. All right, so some steps that I've taken. So the main thing I want to highlight again is that it took about a month or so to go from 2% share of local voice to 6. It's not a crazy increase, but when you factor in, we're talking about 10 or 20 or more keywords that we're focused on for local SEO. If you move the majority of them up, that's going to lead to more qualified impressions and then phone calls and leads for your business. So to start, I reviewed top Google My Business profiles that ranked well for the keyword car keys replacement, put them all into Excel, and I did my own analysis based off what I was seeing. So I looked at their reviews, their updates, their products, their services, their description, photos, etc. I try to get an idea of why are they ranking so well for this particular keyword. Next, I looked at Local Falcon. I looked at the top competitors report for my clients. So I looked at those sites that are ranking again. Then I tried to do the gap analysis between really good sites ranking for this keyword and then the competitors in the area and see if there's any overlap with that. With that gap analysis, then I actually saw some opportunities that my client could actually get on that some of my competitors were not doing. So I thought that was a good opportunity to get some gap analysis closure right there. Next, I updated the website for the car keys replacement page with some new verbiage from ClearScope, and I also added some nearby towns and cities into the description. Um, all throughout the month, I make a lot of updates via the update section within Google My Business, but I made a conscious effort to go after that keyword car keys replacement. All throughout the month, I made updates. I got photos for my client. I shared them on the updated section. I think that actually helps quite a bit. Then I added new question and answer content directly into Google My Business. I think this is a valuable strategy because a lot of times people might actually call my client to ask a very basic question. So when I talked to my client about that, I actually added some of those questions directly into their Google My Business profile just to kind of answer that question right away. Plus, also, I think Google uses that data as well to rank the account even better. All throughout the month, I kept running Multiple local Falcon scans look at average rank position. Again, that's what I went over before. I saw some dots go from dark red to orange. That was an early signal that, hey, my strategy is working. It's got to give it some time. Next, I built out the products and service section going after that keyword. I rewrote the content on the services section to get more descriptive. And again, when I linked it out to the landing page on the website, they kind of matched, whereas before they weren't really. And then, of course, there's more. There's so much more than just what I listed, but really just to keep it high level, you got to make some changes, run the local Falcon or similar tool trend report, see if average rank position is starting to change. So again, dark red into orange. You're not on page one of Google yet, but that's an early signal that you're going to, potentially get there. You got to keep working at it. And then, of course, you can see in the bottom right, we have some more green dots here. But that's basically how I look at this from an early signal perspective. So, again, if you are running your own business or you're an SEO working on your client's account and you're looking for some signals of if your strategy is working, I recommend using a tool similar to this, or you can use Local Falcon, run the trend reports, see if those dots are trying to flip. And when they flip and they get to green, it's great when you do your month report then for the Google My Business data. If you can see there's more impressions and more searches for that keyword that triggered your client's account or your own account. And did that lead to more phone calls as well? Anyway, thanks for watching this video and stay tuned for the next one.